This is Sports Bettor Court with Dan Lust on Bettor Sports Network.
Welcome to another episode of the Sports Bettor Court. I am your host, your judge, your dispute resoluter. Is that a word? It is. It is in my court. So tonight we're going to go over a normal show, right? Rubber match. We're going to have best 2 out of 3. We're going to have 2 sports betting experts on. That is the sports betting component of our show. And as for the law, our discussion takes us to Madison Square Garden, my home state. The New York Knicks involved in a very bizarre lawsuit, one that you do not see every day, between Team A and Team B. Usually those lawsuits, or we'll call them lawsuits or disputes, are settled behind closed doors, behind arbitration, behind the guise of either the NBA Constitution, the NFL's Constitution. But this one is being fought in federal court between the Knicks and the Toronto Raptors. So maybe you heard a little bit about this case. Let me kind of break it down for you. There is a Knicks employee who was with the organization for a number of years. A video coordinator will say he was a scout. He was in the analytics department, worked for the team allegedly for 3 years. Now, okay, we all have different jobs. We all have different employment agreements. It's being alleged here that this individual violated a very particular clause of his agreement, one that applies to trade secrets, taking company information and bringing it to your new employer. So yes, this might be a new and unique lawsuit when it comes to like sports. We never really see this one. There was something similar a couple of years ago, with the Cardinals and the Astros that ended up in criminal allegations. But here, as in between the Knicks and the Raptors, kind of unheard of in the basketball world. So let's break it down. The allegation from the Knicks, right? They're suing not only this former employee, we won't name him here, but they're also suing the Raptors head coach and additional employees from the Raptors organization. The allegation is that the Raptors started talking to this Knicks employee. And again, there's no non-compete here that we're worried about the fact that he went to go work for the Raptors, someone in the same division. That's not here. What we have is that this individual allegedly, right, when he started talking to the Raptors, when they showed an interest in his position, started emailing himself, allegedly, according to this complaint, emailing himself thousands of documents to his personal Gmail account. Not only that he shared his Knicks login for a special server that had access to videos and different information that were proprietary Knicks information. He shared that with Raptors officials. And the Knicks are alleging, not only did they share this, not only did this guy get this, they are alleging that the Raptors officials accessed this information over 2,000 times. So it's not just kind of a comment of the Raptors getting access and, all's fair in love and war and cheating and Spygate and whatever other cheating scandals we have in the history of sports. This is a real violation of someone's employment contract. Not only that, the Raptors are on the hook for this concept, right, called tortious interference with the contract. It's alleged that the Raptors officials told the Knicks to do that. And not only that the Raptors' new system with their new head coach was so unsophisticated that they tried to steal it from the Knicks. Now, we always give you lessons on lust for law, right? This one here is the devil's in the details. We could talk about, right? I agree in hitting, I agree on your iTunes stuff or your Verizon stuff. Nobody reads those things. But in your employment contract, what you do in your everyday life, you cannot just sign your employment contract for your employer and think that everything is going to be all right. Now, this was not necessarily a devil in the details type scenario. This is one that should be blatantly obvious. You're sending stuff to your own Gmail. Okay, I don't know who does that, but maybe that's on the level of sophistication, not that high. Giving your login information to someone else, and maybe I'm going to suppose this here, that login information was being accessed over 2,000 times, maybe by someone in Toronto, over and over by someone in Toronto. Dead giveaway here, gentlemen. Devil's in the details, lust for law. Don't be dumb. Don't be stupid. Assumption of the risk. This lawsuit's a big one. I'm not sure if it's going to stay in open court, but it's one that we should all follow, not just as sports fans, but as employees to a larger organization. They can and will find you. Just because you're no longer under the roof doesn't mean that they can't access your emails and see what you were sending yourself. Got to be smart here, gentlemen. Okay, that'll do it for Lust for Law on the show this week. Very heavy NFL episode. We've got 2 great guests. Excited to break it down for you when we come back.
I feel like this is a quietly contentious point in Dynasty Fantasy Football, what it means to actually be rebuilding. Some people say you should never truly be rebuilding. How do you view the rebuilding versus competing dichotomy in Dynasty?
So I will be the first person to acknowledge that my preferred format or fantasy football is just redraft. The years that I have played Dynasty, it has been I've drafted a win now team because I've seen people that have just gotten into the cycle of rebuilding and thus they just don't make any progress. So if you're rebuilding for the 5th year in a row, I just, I don't know exactly how you get out of it, but yeah, it's definitely something that can happen. And a lot of people, especially when we come out of the NFL draft, everyone's just instantly shipping off, draft picks and everything. So, I mean, it's definitely something that can happen.
Joey, do you feel similarly to it? Do you feel like you see people getting stuck in the rebuilding loop?
I mean, I would say people that try to rebuild in the beginning of seasons, of their fantasy seasons, I see them get stuck in that rut. I would really try to only ever rebuild if I knew I was going to miss the playoffs. Like, I'm always trying to play to win, even if it's maybe I don't know.
I think my big thing is the word rebuild is a much shorter time frame than I think most people say it should be. Like, they look at rebuild as like 3 years out competing. Rebuild, you're looking to compete next season. You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing it now, you're looking to revamp, and maybe there's a one season where you ship it off, but that very next season you should be competing. If you're doing it like that, I'm cool with it, but you got to have a plan, not just keep getting the young players, keep getting the draft picks. Otherwise, you end up like Tim. Maybe not like Tim who gets a bye, but you make the playoffs, you're in that like 4 to 6 range every year, just hovering in the middle. Nothing ever gets better, nothing ever gets worse.
I think I play like you in Dynasty, Simon. I play in 3-year windows.
100%. That's my go-to. And with the rate at which Dynasty leagues turn over, you should really only ever play in a 3-year window.
Sports Bettor Court is now in session. It's time for tonight's litigants. First, Alan Seslowsky from RotoWire. Alan hosts RotoWire's Dynasty Fantasy Football podcast, as well as RotoWire Fantasy Sports Today on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio from 1 to 3 p.m. in August and 7 a.m. on game days. Give him a follow at Alan Seslowsky on Twitter. Next, Geno Bisconte, host of the In Hot Water Show on Compound Media. Geno's beginning the season of Geno's Picks. Give him a follow on Twitter at Geno_Bisconte.
Did you mute me?
All right. Court is now in session. I think we might have a tech audio issue with our friend Geno.
I can hear you now. I don't know what just happened. I apologize. Fucking I missed the great intro. Alan did it, that piece of shit. I'm kidding.
Listen, there is no cursing in Judge Lust's quorum over here. Anthony, if you can set me up in the captain's seat on the bottom.
Am I already in the penalty box? I'm sorry, guys. I apologize.
You are in a lot of trouble here. You're coming late to my court. You're cursing on my court. Not once, not twice. Judge Lust has some rules over here. Okay.
I apologize.
You need a bailiff to bring him out. That's all.
It's impossible.
It can be arranged. I know where you live. We will find you. We will throw you in jail. Okay.
You come by and we will drink, Dan. Bring Alan with you. You think I'm scared of you guys? Come on. We'll have a goddamn beverage.
You can be held in contempt. Just be careful, okay? Are you smoking in my courtroom? I've never had a litigant like this in my courtroom. Okay, gentlemen, we got a show to do here, okay? Geno, get your act together. You got about 30 seconds here. You get it together.
Locked in. I'm locked and loaded. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Okay. Happy to have you. Okay, so here are the basic rules for Sports Bettor Court for those that are coming in new. We play best 2 out of 3. We get your best arguments, right? The judge is not – I'm not Nostradamus. I can't tell the future, but I can tell a good argument from a bad one. So I'm going to give you some leeway here. Sometimes I'm going to give you a line on over and under. Sometimes I give it open slate, and you guys pick what you think is best here. But your job is to convince the judge, right? And if we get to round 3, I got a special treat for you guys, but we shall see. Now, let us start. We're going to start with the one litigant who was on time that did not drop an F-bomb in our court. Alan, NFL Coach of the Year. You have an open slate. You can pick all 32 NFL teams. Give me who you like. And give me the odds.
By the way, he's smoking in court. A real man snorts in court. That's what that's how you do it. But Coach of the Year, guys, that's got to be the Falcons. Arthur Smith. This is a narrative award more than it is an actual performance award, meaning that in like the MVP for the Super Bowl and for the regular season is usually a quarterback award, whereas this is usually a bad team that improves or makes the playoffs the following year. Look at Coach of the Year from the past couple of years. You have Brian Dable, who had a crappy Giants team, who then made the playoffs. In the past, you've had Kevin Stefanski, crappy team, makes the playoffs. This year, Arthur Smith, they were the bottom of the division last year, and now they are all lined up to win in a bad division with a revamped offensive line and a running game that is going to take the league by storm. Arthur Smith at 14-1, he's your Coach of the Year.
Geno's got some this like display tactics or like this delay distraction tactics. He's got you on the echo. He's dropping F-bombs. He's doing everything he can in his power to beat you. So Geno, we're going to give it to you here. Arthur Smith, I like the pick. I'm going to reserve my judgment until I hear your response here. Geno, who do you got? You're on mute, my friend.
Oh, a lot of my picks are going to be based on being a Charger fan, which is a effing nightmare. Okay? It's a nightmare. All right. So again, the second the Broncos hired Sean Payton, okay, the Chargers immediately added 2 more losses that will play on to. I'll tease out a pick I'm going to do later, and he will be Coach of the Year because one, he inherits a Russell Wilson who was broken, who went from being a leader in Seattle to a man that just started to make it about him, and suddenly him and Ciara wanted to be the next Jay-Z, and he lost his way. Okay, but now when you have a guy like Sean Payton who puts the no in no nonsense, who says we're not going to do this, who says I don't have time to let Russell cook, and I don't have time for you to play all this drama. And let me tell you right now, the best thing he did, I have 2 words for you, and I won't say the F-bomb, but I'll say Ben effing DiNucci, who spent the frigging offseason, yeah, you get it, man, spent the offseason in the equivalent of the minor leagues, and the only way to rectify what was going on with Russell Wilson was to say, hey, suppose we are willing to throw everything, turn it to glass, and bring in a guy that I'm going to play you in the preseason. Why? Why want you to, what if I get hurt? Who cares? Who the F do you think you are?
Geno, my man. I might ask you to mute. I think we have some technical difficulties here. But Geno, you ready for this? Sean Payton to win the award. Let's start with you, and Alan, I'll go back to you here. But to win the award, you actually have to have a good team. The Broncos are one of the most disappointing teams in the entire league, and I get it. You're an AFC West guy. I think maybe you're a glass half full, and you think that the division looks pretty good. I'm not so sure that the Broncos will actually be a good team. We have to invest in Russell Wilson. But let's go back to you, Alan. For Arthur Smith, this is the real question here, and I think this is the trendy pick. I think Sean Payton opened up as the favorite here in this line. I think it's since gone from 10-1 to 14-1. So seems to be some other money here. The Arthur Smith and the Falcons are the trendy pick here. I'm kind of feeling Arthur Smith, but I guess I'll say this, right? They have a second-year quarterback. Desmond Ridder didn't really show much last year. Constantly they have an exciting offense in theory, but I feel like there are so many people picking them that the expectations are high. Usually you want a coach that exceeds expectations. So I get it. If the Broncos play well, Sean Payton can win the award. Don't think they're going to play well, but it looks like people are really kind of pushing up the Falcons and their stock. It's going to be hard to exceed these already kind of hipster expectations. So Alan, what do you say about that?
Yeah, Sean Payton's in a division with Patrick Mahomes. They're not winning the division, and they're probably not going to make the playoffs. I like the Chargers a little bit more than our other guests, and the AFC is a murderer's row. If they don't make the playoffs, you can't get Coach of the Year. Whereas Arthur Smith, again, I agree with everything you said, but they are in a winnable division. They're going against just think about the quarterbacks that they're going against in that division. Baker Mayfield, when I play fantasy football drafts, he goes after some bench players. I mean, he's like the 38th quarterback taken. Then they have a rookie quarterback with Bryce Young in that division. And then sure, there's Derek Carr and the Saints, but you talked about the Desmond Ridder, not a great quarterback. Arthur Smith and the Falcons ran the ball 559 times last year, and now they get a top 10 generational prospect in Bijan Robinson and upgrade the offensive line, and they still haven't unleashed their 2 top 10 weapons with Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Imagine if Desmond Ridder's even a B-. Marcus Mariota was a D. He couldn't throw the ball accurately.
If Desmond Ridder 14-1.
Yeah, 14-1. The value's still there. Again, you want to take long shots where you can make some money, but it's also you have to be able to see the path. That's why I still love Arthur Smith until he gets to 10-1.
I don't mind it. The division is winnable. And I think there's a path here. Now, okay, Geno, I'll let you have the last word here. The same price. That's what I want you to focus on. And if you see where I'm leaning towards down. I'll let you can win me over on this one. same exact odds, and the AFC West is not winnable for the Denver Broncos. The jersey that you're wearing, that's the second best odds, right? So go ahead. Sean Payton, you can win me over. Your last chance here.
Let me argue with everything you said. I disagree with nothing. Everything you guys have said, I agree with. But what you need to realize is the second that he signed, and it's about the teams in the division. The second that he signed with Denver, he got 2 wins over San Diego. I'll call them that. I don't care. They broke my heart. And he got 2 wins over Garoppolo and McDaniels, who that team, he'll never have that clubhouse, okay? So you can sit here and tell me they have to make the playoffs to get coach of the year, but you're looking at all these guys that like, oh my God, all you have to do is take a terrible team and just make the playoffs in a terrible division. It's not enough anymore, okay? Maybe you guys want to watch USFL next offseason and enjoy that fantasy league. But I'm telling you right now, when the Chargers said, we never thought about firing Brandon Staley after he blew that, well, you're lying to us, okay? And I've had it with people that think we're dumb, that think fans are stupid, and we're not. And the only reason they didn't hire Sean Payton, who basically said, I can't think what he said, I want to go to Los Angeles. The reason they didn't is because they didn't want to pay him. Okay, and money talks, and you will see. They will get 2 wins against the Chargers. They'll get 2 wins against the Raiders, and they will easily win 9 games. And I don't care if that's enough for the playoffs. That will be enough for the NFL to say, look at this machine we're making. Fucking keep pumping money into us. And Sean Payton is back, and he came back from announcing out of the booth. And this is great for the product, for the Shield.
I have to ask you a quick question. You ready? Geno, have you seen The League?
Watched The League. I've been told countless times I should. I look like a guy that's in it. I've been told countless times
You
that.
sound like a guy who's in it. Rafi.
Yeah, Rafi.
Jason Mantzoukas. It's there. You do get points for looking like Rafi, but you do get negative points for cursing. Now I'm counting 3 times. So, Alan, take round 1. Listen, on round 2, you know my rules. Come on time, don't curse. Maybe you can do it for round 2. Okay, we'll come back from break, and we'll see if Geno can get his act together.
The Detroit Lions select Sam Laporta, tight end, Iowa.
Had to go with your boy Sam Laporta there to pair with TJ Hawkinson.
Sammy, I couldn't double down on rookie tight ends. I think that would take it. That's taking it a little too far.
This could be one of the most exciting rookie tight end classes in a while, just based on the archetypes of these guys, of the Dalton Kincaids and the Sam Laportas. Obviously, Green Bay drafted 2 themselves with Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. So after Kincaid, I would say is probably the consensus with tight ends. Like, who do you like as far as the best ball, like end of best ball? Do you like Laporta, or is there anybody else you like more?
I do like Laporta. We're looking for guys that can be a top 2 target on their team. So any path, any argument you could make, right? So you can make the argument that Dalton Kincaid is going to be a top 2 target with after Stephon Diggs. You can make an argument that with Jamison Williams suspended, now Sam Laporta is just going to play straight up wide receiver. He looks like a wide receiver. Why can't he line up out wide at split end, right? It's like Marvin Jones and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I would also throw another name in the ring, and I don't mind, since we're doing this for the fans, for the kids. He's still on the board. Luke Musgrave on your Packers. They're not super loaded at wide receiver. We like the guy Reed they drafted, but you never know. So why can't Luke Musgrave be a big slot? In fact, they drafted 2 tight ends, Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. Tucker Kraft is more of an inline guy. They might just go 2 tight ends right away. Tucker Kraft inline, Luke Musgrave in the slot. Why can't he be a target monster for Jordan Love? So those are the guys, those are the conditions that you need for a rookie tight end to succeed. They need to not only be the best pass catching tight end on the team, but a top 2 pass catcher on the team outright. That's how you get Kyle Pitts. Evan Ingram as a rookie was top 5 because Odell Beckham Jr. hurt his knee 4 weeks into the year. So that's the formula. We're looking for guys that can actually be a top target right away. Otherwise, we're playing the sit and wait long-term game, which is what you're doing with guys like Michael Mayer.
All rise for Sports Bettor Court with Dan Lust on Bettor Sports Network.
FanDuel, up to $2,500 no sweat bet by using fantasyalarm.com/FanDuel. Gentlemen, gentlemen, Geno, you're throwing me off a little bit. I got this nice format. I got breaks. I got this. And then I got this litigant that comes into my courtroom just pretending to be Rafi, screaming at me, dropping F-bombs. You're throwing the judge off, but it's okay. Round 1 is in the books. Round 2 is a brand new round. It doesn't really matter what happened before. Now, listen, we look at the lines here in the show. The last couple of weeks, we've looked at lines which seem a little off. Like we looked at the Patriots line. Okay, Bill Belichick's generally over whatever the line is, but, we look at everything here and there. Now, the Chargers line is one that we are particularly interested in. This is a 9.5 line for the win total. Last year, the Chargers won 10 games. The year before that, they won 9 games. So, the Vegas zone, we're right in the middle here. So this is very much the tipping point. As a judge, I could be convinced either way. There's really no precedent that tells us this. Same quarterback, same running back, same top wide receiver. But, I see you wearing the jersey, Geno. I want to give you a chance to redeem yourself. I would think that nobody knows more on this show about the Chargers than you. Home cooking. You really should win this one, Geno. What do you got? Over or under?
Now, here's the thing. This is what you call a delicious bet in Vegas. 9.5. Oh, my God. The Chargers have the highest paid player in the NFL in Justin Herbert, who deserves to be. And they have Austin Eckler, who, whether you realize it or not, is not happy. He's not happy. He wanted more money. They wouldn't give it to him. And you have to realize they restructured everyone's contract. They restructured Keenan Allen's. They restructured Mike Williams. You maybe remember Mike Williams, who had Week 18 off. Had the playoffs off because he played in Week 18, the meaningless game, because we have the dumbest head coach in the NFL. Yeah, Robert Saleh gets a pass on this one, Alan. We do. And when he blew that 27-0 lead, which I have witnesses, I called. It turned on a play where it was 27-0. Chargers had the ball inside the red zone and inside their own red zone, and they did a handoff to a guy that was fresh off the practice squad, fumbled. Jags scored at the end of the half, went in. You knew they were going to win, and that should have been Mike Williams in on the play. And then they said, I'll say it again, we never thought of firing Brandon Staley, which tells you one of two things. Either they're lying, which they are, or they're the dumbest front office in the business, because you should have thought of firing a man who blew one of the easiest playoff wins in history. And they go into the offseason, and much like LA, it's nothing but stories about how, oh my God, it was such a tough loss, and Brandon Staley hung out with Steve Kerr and overcome losses and stuff, and no one cares, because the bottom line is this is a team, as I said earlier, that just lost at least 3, maybe 4 wins. At least 2 wins to the Broncos, probably a win to the Raiders, because this is a head coach that, I don't care how many wins you said they had the past 2 years, they had 2 playoff losses. Don't kid yourself. That Raiders final game was a playoff loss where he coached themselves into a loss. And if you think this is a team, and they always love saying this, oh, we love our head coach. We love our head coach, because you're a battered wife and you don't know any better. And this team is going to start collapsing on itself at the first sign of a bad loss, and they will be lucky to win 8 games. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope everyone loses money on my stupid bet, but I'm not.
I got you, Geno. So the pick is under, and it's, Alan, if you heard that, it's not just under, it's way under. But Alan, see if you can match that energy.
What I like about the Chargers over that I think that my friend Geno missed out is that they upgraded the offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. That is going to add some nuclear fuel to this offense. The Chargers have already said they're going to start throwing the ball downfield a little bit more. Going to go away from Austin Eckler, who I agree, at age 28 running back, that could be tough sometimes. And now they're talking about that Justin Herbert, by the way, he was injured in week 1, the rib injury, and they still won 10 games. Now we have a healthy Herbert. Both receivers are healthy for now. They added a first-round wide receiver in Quentin Johnson. Not only do I like the over, I think they're going to blow this total away. I could see them getting, I'd say, I thought that over-under on this would be about 10.5. I think I'm getting a game spot here.
We might need to have some side action. We might need to find the middle. I'm hearing 8.5, and I'm hearing 10.5. Geno, let me go back to you on this. I'm looking at the franchise encyclopedia. Okay, maybe previous years don't matter, but I'll disagree. In our legal world, precedent does matter. And when you have the same continuity between head coach, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, year over year, that is rare in the NFL. And these are talented skill position players, right? Granted, defense, that's not the whole team, but people keep saying that the Justin Herbert stock is going up. Every year you look at the MVP odds, he's always kind of right around the question. So, I mean, it's really, I think, a Justin Herbert point at this point. If we really buy into the offense, that they're throwing the ball down the field, Herbert's getting better, right? Doesn't this lead to a team that's on the upward trajectory? And if they won 9 games and they won 10 games, doesn't that show that they're going up a little bit? Go ahead, Geno.
You know what's fascinating about you two, who, by the way, are very knowledgeable. But again, if you ask me about any of the other 29 teams, I won't be livid, and it's not your fault. And yeah, he got hurt in week 1, Alan, but he shouldn't have played in week 2. He played in week 2, he fumbled away the game, and that was a loss I didn't have, and it set him back a couple of weeks. And you know what? Trying to think what you two said about the Chargers defense. Nothing! Nothing! And Brandon Staley, the Chargers have the most points in the NFL in the past 3 years in NFL history. And I bet you both can get this. What team has given up the most points in the past 3 years in NFL history? The Chargers, who have Brandon Staley, who was not brought in for his offensive genius, which is why he re-effing cycled Kellen Moore. It's not. He literally showed up, and he went to the Chargers, and he was on the Rams, and he said, "Hey, Jalen Ramsey, go pick off that ball, and Aaron Donald, go sack the quarterback," and he did. And then he got to Los Angeles, like, "Hey, Joey Bosa, go sack the quarterback." He goes, "How? I don't know, just do it." Hey, Derwin James, go pick off the ball. How? Like the other guy. He was brought in because he's a defensive genius, and yet neither of you seem to have mentioned anything about our defense because it sucks a giant. I don't want to get edited again.
Okay, let me stop you there before you say anything
Please.
that you might get arrested for. Normally, I make decisions of the judge based on the law, based on facts. This is a rare occasion for Judge Lust. I'm actually going to pick Geno's side because I fear for my life. I feel that Geno's going to jump through the camera and strangle the judge. And the bailiff is not here. The bailiff took the day off. He's in the preseason. He's not here today. I'm scared for my life. You throw the kitchen sink at me, sometimes it works. 1-1 as we head into the rubber match. Now, listen, sometimes you win with odd tactics. This one was one that happened to work.
You know what? I want to go to a Chargers game where they lose with Geno. I think that's the verdict here. That's what
I think I might want to hang out with Geno after this. I think
Yes.
the judge, off court. You're not really supposed to talk to the judge. You're supposed to be sequestered during the trials. Maybe here we can make some exceptions. Okay. Fantasy Alarms All-Pro subscription plus Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Start a free 7-day trial of Fantasy Alarms All-Pro subscription and get the Fantasy Football Draft Guide and cheat sheet for free. Go to fantasyalarm.com/draft. Getting close to draft season. Getting very close to draft season. Now, gentlemen, I don't know about you. I just watched this great documentary on Netflix, the Johnny Manziel Untold series. Pretty good story about how Manziel wasn't watching tape, wasn't doing anything. Shocker that the guy ends up as a draft bust. Now we have something pretty unique here. And I sometimes prep you guys. I tell you what we might be talking about, might not be talking about. We're 1-1. We have some very unique litigants today, maybe one very unique litigant and the other one's pretty standard, but listen, this is a unique argument. Okay. I'm going to let you take the lead here. The biggest NFL draft bust in history. There are no wrong answers. It could be Johnny Manziel. It could be anybody else. It could be a former member of your San Diego Chargers. It could be whoever you want it to be. Geno, I'm going to give you first bite at the apple. The best argument wins here, gentlemen.
The biggest bust in NFL history is many people would like to say it's Ryan Leaf, and it's not, because it gets overshadowed by Jamarcus Russell of the Raiders. Say what you want about Ryan Leaf, but not only did he, as they say, have a cup of coffee later with the Bucks and the Cowboys, and I will tell you, I hated him as a Charger fan, but Ryan Leaf, he bottomed out, and he's done more as a role model, falling apart, getting into drugs, going to jail, and becoming a public speaker. But Jamarcus Russell was nothing but a bust. He was drafted by the Raiders. He failed a drug test for a purple drank. He never did anything other than repeatedly stink, and they gave up a ton on this guy, and they mortgaged everything on him, and all he did was set the franchise back 5 or 6 years. He's the biggest bust in NFL history, in my opinion.
He did throw the ball pretty well at his combine. He did do that pretty well. He did. Alan, okay, Jamarcus Russell I'm good with. Number 1 overall pick. I think that's pretty fair. Alan, who you got?
Well, he said Ryan Leaf. I agree.
He said Ryan Leaf, and then he said Jamarcus Russell.
Yeah, Jamarcus Russell, paying the guy is $61 million with 32 guaranteed. That's obviously the biggest money bust of all time. But in more recent history, you have to look at someone like Mitch Trubisky, who's still in the league, but you passed on Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you passed on a Mount Rushmore quarterback for Mitch Trubisky, who was considered a reach. And what makes it worse, what's the step with the kick in the groin at the end, was that they traded up one spot and gave up draft capital to get Mitch when he would have fell to them anyway. Remember that? They moved from position 3 to position 2 to take Mitch Trubisky. I mean, this list can go on and on. So, yeah, there's the money bust, but there's also the draft capital give up, and also what was the opportunity cost. Imagine it's, with Tom Brady, you can kind of live with it because it was a 6th-round pick, but Patrick Mahomes was sitting right there for you. Imagine the Chicago Bears if they had Mahomes right now.
I like it. And where my mind goes, and no one said it, but Trey Lance, this is why I'll bring up the topic too. 3 pick, and it's not just that he was drafted number 3, it's they traded up all the draft capital to get him, and it's who you're passing up on the other end. But as for the 2 guys you guys picked, I think this is important, and this is me personally. I will never draft if Judge Less ever gets the reins of an NFL team. You can't take someone that had 1 year of a track record in college. That's a recipe for disaster. That's a Mitch Trubisky guy. Jamarcus Russell did play for a couple of years, and the expectations might have been appropriate, right? He had, I would say 3 decent years, all kind of with the same statistics and different sample size. But the question is the biggest draft bust, who we will look at in history. Listen, I'll give it back to you guys for your rebuts here. But when I think about it for the NBA, we're going to move over one topic for a league. People talk about Sam Bowie as being that guy. And it's not because Sam Bowie happened to be so bad. It's because of who they passed up to take him. MJ is on the board. Okay. Geno, back to you. Okay. I'm leaning right now towards Allen. Okay. Jamarcus Russell, yes, was the 1st overall pick. Mitch Trubisky, 1st overall pick. If you're just comparing Mitch to Jamarcus, what is the odd that takes you in Jamarcus' favor?
Okay. And another thing about Mitch Trubisky, and I'll even throw you a little extra weight, they also passed on Deshaun Watson. Okay, so they could be literally settling out of court with hundreds of Asian masseuses. And that's redundant. But I will say this, there's something about learning from your mistake. And the Chargers, it's what you said, after they drafted Ryan Leaf, they had Michael Vick. And they're like, we're not doing this again. They're exactly what we said. We're not taking a guy with 1 good year, traded the pick and turned it into 2 guys I can't remember. Oh, yeah, LaDainian Thompson and Drew Brees. Whereas the Bears have moved away from Trubisky. They're like, this was a screw-up. They owned up. The Raiders, you said it. You proved my point. Yeah, well, he played 5 years, and he stunk more and more every year because the Raiders refused to admit that they made an oopsie with a capital F. Do you understand? That's why that was the worst pick in history, because they wouldn't admit it.
Okay, Alan, last word here, and then I'll render my decision.
You might be onto something with the Sam Bowie, and it's not like Portland did it again. Oh, wait, they did with Greg Oden and KD. So you do it twice. I think you're the true winner here.
They might have actually done it just now in the draft with our guy Scoot. They might have. I lost a lot on NBA draft props. Oh, who thought they were going to take Brandon? I take it back. It's the opposite. They got Scoot. The Hornets were the one that screwed up with Miller. So maybe they're on the other side here. Judge Luss is never wrong. Judge Luss is omniscient. Okay. Gentlemen, I think I'm ready to render my bet. This is a tough one. Alan, I'm going to roll with you. I do think it's Mitch. I think Jamarcus, I think it was fair for them to assume that he could have been a good NFL athlete, right? He a decent sample size, he threw the ball through the ceiling, great measurables. Who was Mitch Trubisky? Who was he to be drafted first overall? Yes, good career, but he's a career backup. I'm sorry, Mitch. I'm sorry. Gentlemen, what I do each and every week, I don't just pick a winner. I pick an NFL best bet. So, you're not going to leave empty-handed. It's like Price is Right. When, also appearing on the Price is Right, you get a bird bath. I'm rolling with you. Chargers under 9.5 is my best bet. That's the one I'm investing my money in. So, Alan, you got the win. Geno, you get the consolation prize. I'm rolling Chargers under 9.5. It's going to be the bet for me. And that'll do it here for Sports Bettor Court. Alan, Geno, thank you so much. We'll see you next Wednesday, 6 p.m. for another episode of Sports Bettor Court. Thank you, gentlemen.